Sauron didn't lose because he was weak. He lost because he could not imagine losing to someone who didn't want his throne. Sauron's fatal mistakes is the story of how Middle-earth's ultimate control freak got quietly dismantled by a patience and mercy strategy he refused to believe was real. He plans for armies, kings, and conquest. He does not plan for Gandalf, a walking stick, a pipe, and a horrifying amount of emotional intelligence. In this episode of Fool of a Tube, we're pulling apart how that blindness, step by step, brings down Barad-dûr and erases the eye. Picture Barad-dûr coming down in sheets of fire. The eye is screaming. Mount Doom is erupting like a divine HR incident. The sky is collapsing in on itself. In that instant, try to imagine what Sauron is thinking. It is not poetry. It is not regret. It is probably something like, how did I just get taken out by an anxious gardener, a half-starved ring gremlin, and that meddling grey nuisance who smokes in meeting rooms? His ending is brutal and humiliating. The One Ring, the single source of his will over Middle-earth, is gone in the fire of Orodruin, and with it his body and his authority dissolve. He is not offered closure. He is not allowed to monologue. He just loses everything because a plan he did not believe existed turned out to be real. And that is the hook. Sauron is incredibly intelligent, inventive, and relentless. He is not stupid. He just has one fatal blind spot that eats his entire empire. He cannot comprehend that someone could fight him without trying to replace him. He does not understand a version of victory that is not rule. Gandalf does. Gandalf quietly builds that version for decades right under his nose. Sauron and Gandalf are not mortal rivals in the Marvel sense. They are actually the same order of being. Both are Maiar, spirits that existed before the world, a little like angels in Tolkien's cosmology. Sauron began as a Maiar who served Ole, the Vala of craft and making. Early on, Sauron genuinely loved order, structure, and efficiency. Tolkien says Sauron hated waste and confusion and loved coordination, which is honestly relatable if you have ever watched three people try to schedule a meeting and wanted to become a dark power, rather than endure that again. Over time, that love of order calcified into obsession. He decided the only way to fix the world was to run it, personally, forever. Gandalf began as Olorin. He walked among elves and men in pity and patience. He learned compassion in the halls of Nienna, the one who teaches mercy through grief, and he became known for strengthening hearts quietly, rather than smashing enemies loudly. So right from the first frame, we are watching two operating systems boot. Sauron is control first, then fear, then conquest. Gandalf is empathy first, then encouragement, then resistance. Sauron sees people as pieces. Gandalf sees people as people. That difference is not cute background lore. That difference decides who wins. Let us talk about Sauron's skill set, because the guy is terrifyingly capable. After his original boss, Morgoth, is thrown out of the world, Sauron steps up. He does logistics. He does weapons development. He does industrial-scale war. He rebuilds Mordor and raises Barad-dûr, centralizes his breeding and training of orcs and trolls into something like an evil supply chain, engineers alliances with corrupted men, and turns entire regions into his production base. He is basically the ultimate COO of evil. He is also a master manipulator. He goes to the elven smiths of Eregion in the Second Age, in a beautiful fair form, calls himself Anatar, Lord of Gifts, and offers consulting. Together with Celebrimbor and the other smiths, they craft the Rings of Power. Then, in secret, Sauron forges the One Ring in Orodruin, putting a huge portion of his essence and will into it. That ring is not jewelry. It is a remote admin override. It is designed to dominate the other rings, and through them, dominate the rulers who wear them. That is not a random gamble. That is long-term systems thinking. The problem is that Sauron believes the system is perfect because he thought of it. Now stack that against Gandalf's approach, which does not look like an empire. When Gandalf arrives in Middle-earth at the start of the Third Age, it is not as a conqueror. The Valar send the Astari, the wizards, to oppose Sauron, but they actually hobble them on purpose. The wizards are forbidden to rule or dominate the free peoples. They have to help by counsel, by pity, by inspiring courage and endurance in others. They are not allowed to roll up with divine megafire and just delete Mordor, which is exactly why everyone underestimates Gandalf, including Sauron. He shows up looking like an elderly man with a walking stick, not a general. He takes long walks. He lurks at parties in the Shire. He lights fireworks for kids. Kings call him Stormcrow and accuse him of bringing trouble everywhere he goes. Theoden literally tells him he is a bringer of bad news instead of a savior. From the outside, Gandalf looks like a narrative side quest. Wise old wanderer, probably here to warn us and leave. Sauron sees that and shrugs. That tiny man is not my problem. Let us go back to the rings for a second, because this is where Sauron's first big crack shows. His masterstroke is supposed to be total control. You give an elf a ring of power, and secretly you own them. You can hear them. You can steer them. Except, plot twist, elves are not stupid. The instant Sauron puts on the One Ring, they feel the attempt to dominate. They all go, "Oh no, absolutely not," and pull their rings off. Celebrimbor, their leader, realizes they have been infiltrated, hides the 3 elven rings from Sauron, and prepares for war. Sauron is forced to drop stealth and launch a direct invasion way earlier than he wanted. He burns Eregion and tortures and kills Celebrimbor, and he still does not get those 3. Here is the lesson. Sauron had convinced himself that his enemies did not actually have interior freedom. He assumed they would not detect the hook, because he believed the hook was just how reality should work. It is the same tone he carries forever. He never really respects other wills as wills. He respects them as software, which is efficient until someone decides to stop running your code. Sauron does not understand love as a strategic force. I know that sounds like a line from a CW fantasy show, but stay with it. Gandalf spends literal decades in the Shire becoming friends with hobbits. He encourages Bilbo's curiosity and bravery. He later cultivates Frodo's steadiness and mercy. These are not super soldiers. They are small people who like food, pipeweed, and low drama. Gandalf learns them, laughs with them, guides them, and protects them. He does the same elsewhere. He supports Aragorn in secret, protecting the last line of Númenórean kingship until the world is ready. He advises Elrond. He speaks hope into Rohan when it is being psychologically choked by Saruman's agent. He is the emergency therapist of Middle-earth. None of that looks dangerous if you believe only fear moves armies. Sauron watches the map and sees no giant counter-empire rising against him. He sees no rival Dark Tower, no mirror Barad-dûr. He thinks he is winning. He thinks Gandalf is just out there doing Middle-earth social work. He cannot model what happens when that social work turns into the most stubborn alliance in the history of his life. Genuinely, Sauron's downfall is part military failure and part spiritual failure, but it is also part analytics failure. He does not rate hobbits. At first, he barely knows they exist. Later, he hears, through the torture of Gollum, that the ring was in the Shire and that a creature named Baggins had it. At that point, He sends ring wraiths to hunt Baggins and retrieve the ring. But notice the assumption. He thinks a halfling got hold of the ring by accident, and the correct play is to take it from that halfling so a serious player can wield it. He never seriously considers that halflings might carry his one source of power into his volcano to destroy it. He does not guard for that, because that path is beneath his imagination. And we should be fair. At the Council of Elrond, Boromir basically pitches exactly what Sauron expects. Take the ring, give it to a strong leader, march on Mordor, win by force. He frames it as saving Gondor, which is understandable, but it is still domination by superweapon. Sauron assumes everyone thinks like that, because that is how he thinks. What he cannot process is that Elrond and Gandalf shut Boromir down. The council scene is crystal clear. They agree they cannot use the ring, because it will corrupt whoever wields it. Elrond says it is altogether evil. Gandalf will not touch it. Their plan is not conquest by superweapon. Their plan is destruction by pity and endurance. To Sauron, this sounds like, we have no plan. To Gandalf, this is the only plan that does not end with Sauron 2.0 sitting on a nicer throne. Sauron does worry about the wise, the top-tier powers moving against him, but when he looks at his enemies, the one who scares him conceptually is Saruman, not Gandalf. Saruman the White is head of the wizards, an intellectual, an engineer, someone who studies Sauron's methods and imitates them. Saruman builds an army, industrializes Isengard, and starts talking about power in language that sounds suspiciously like corporate synergy. That is familiar. Sauron can read that. He understands rival tyrants. He does not understand Gandalf. In Tolkien's notes about this period, Sauron tends to assume Saruman is the chief of the enemy effort, because Saruman looks like him, thinks like him, and clearly wants the ring for himself. Gandalf, by contrast, eluded and puzzled him, because Gandalf's motives were not domination. That is huge. Sauron sees Saruman and thinks, there, that is a worthy enemy. Then he sees Gandalf and thinks, that is a staff, a moth whisperer, and some fireworks. Sauron never fixes this raid, even after Gandalf goes toe-to-toe with Durin's Bane, dies fighting a Balrog, returns as Gandalf the White with upgraded authority, and then proceeds to reorganize almost every defense that ends Sauron's war. It is like watching a CEO underestimate the quiet guy in IT and then lose the company, because that quiet guy owned the entire infrastructure. By late in the War of the Ring, Sauron should have perfect intel. He has the eye. He has networks of spies. He has terror. Instead, his information goes sideways because he keeps interpreting everything through his own arrogance. Exhibit A, Pippin and the Palantir. After Isengard falls, Saruman's Seeing Stone ends up in Gandalf's hands. Pippin, being Pippin, looks into it when he is absolutely not supposed to. Sauron sees a hobbit with the Palantir of Orthanc and jumps to the conclusion that Saruman captured the ring-bearer. Gandalf immediately understands what Sauron thinks he saw, and he uses that misread to accelerate their plans. Exhibit B, Aragorn and that same Palantir. Aragorn later reveals himself to Sauron using the stone. He shows Anduril, the reforged sword of Elendil. Translation for Sauron: the heir of Isildur is here. He is crowned in everything but name, and he might have the ring. That terrifies Sauron, because his one recurring nightmare is a resurrected Númenórean-style king with the One Ring leading a direct assault. So Sauron panics. He moves his timeline up. He slams his full force at Minas Tirith to break Gondor now, before this supposed Ring King can unify the West. That panic attack is exactly what Gandalf and Aragorn want. It pulls Sauron's gaze and armies outward, away from the one place he should be guarding, which is his volcano. He thinks he is crushing the final resistance. He is actually opening the door. This is the fatal one. Sauron cannot imagine that someone would choose to unmake the ring instead of use it. It is unthinkable to him that a person could stand at the lip of Orodruin and decide, free will intact, this should end, rather than this should make me king. He honestly believes that if the West gets the ring, they will try to wield it. In his mental model, the only unknown is who will claim it. A rival elf queen like Galadriel, a lord like Elrond, a warrior king like Aragorn, maybe even Saruman if he slithers back into relevance. He plans around those possibilities. He readies against a military challenge. He does not plan for two starving hobbits scrambling up a cliff with a bottle of water and shared trauma. That is why Frodo and Sam actually reach Mount Doom. Mordor is busy throwing everything it has at Minas Tirith, and later the host of the West at the Black Gate. The Eye is not searching its own doorstep for two miserable travelers who do not want a throne. The one thing Sauron never secures is his single point of failure. He can see a crown coming from miles away. He cannot see mercy walking on bleeding feet. Here is our running gag, which is also canon accurate. Sauron basically keeps building mental dominoes and kicking them in the wrong direction. They will never get the ring out of the Shire. The hobbits haul it out of the Shire to Bree. Aragorn then walks them, barely breathing, through the wild to Rivendell, where Elrond's flood, with Gandalf's horsey flourish, wipes the Nazgul off the road. Fine. They will never agree to destroy it. Power corrupts. Someone at the Council of Elrond will grab it and say, I will fix the world with it. Boromir literally tries that pitch. The Council still refuses. They agree the ring is altogether evil, cannot be used, and must be unmade where it was forged. Okay, but they will never sneak it past me into Mordor. Frodo and Sam literally walk in through the back, while Sauron is convinced Aragorn has the ring at the Black Gate. They will never reach the cracks of doom. They reach the cracks of doom. They will never cast it in. Technically correct. Gollum does, via bite and fall, but the result is the same. The comedy here is that every time Gandalf and friends clear a domino, Sauron calls it a fluke instead of updating his model. Classic villain mistake. If this had a modern subtitle, it would read like a bad sports interview. Do you regret underestimating hobbits? No, they just got lucky. Do you regret not guarding your volcano? No, that was weather-related. Do you regret ignoring the old wizard? That old wizard was just vibes. Famous last words. If you like this slow humiliation of a cosmic tyrant, you are already one of us. This is Fool of a Tube, where we take Middle-earth apart like a crime board with yarn, and then have the audacity to put it back together with jokes. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and answer this in the comments. At what point should Sauron have just admitted Gandalf was his problem? Was it the hobbits leaving the Shire? Or was it Gandalf showing up in Minas Tirith like, "Hi, I am here to save your city and also adopt your stewardship issues"? Back to our regularly scheduled downfall. Let us talk about the 3 traits Sauron marks as weakness that end him. First, patience. Gandalf is comfortable moving on a scale of decades, even centuries. He lets Bilbo keep the ring for years, studying quietly, researching its true nature, waiting for the moment to act. Sauron thinks in decisive blows and forced compliance. Gandalf thinks in healing, timing, and trust. Second, compassion. Gandalf invests in people everyone else dismisses. Hobbits, a king who has been mentally poisoned, a ranger who does not yet wear a crown, a steward's second son who reads lore instead of flexing. He walks into broken places and gives them enough hope to stand again. That is not sentimental. That is strategic morale work. Theoden only rides because Gandalf releases him from Saruman's control. Rohan only rides because Theoden rides. Gondor only holds because Rohan rides. If Minas Tirith falls, the ring-bearer is trapped before he can even cross Mordor, because Sauron can pull his entire army back behind the Morannon and sweep the plain. Third, restraint. Gandalf refuses the ring. When Frodo offers it, he says no immediately, and his no is terrified. He tells Frodo that if he took it, he would become a power too great and terrible, because even his desire to do good would curdle into domination. Sauron cannot pass that sentence. In his worldview, refusing supreme power is either a lie or a joke. He never plans for someone who means it. That single blind spot is what lets the ring go into the fire. So here is the shape of the tragedy. Sauron's greatest strength is his need for total control. He believes in planning. He believes in leverage. He believes in bending every other will so tightly that nothing unpredictable can ever happen again. He thinks that is mercy. In his mind, unification under a single perfect order will stop chaos and suffering. Tolkien describes how Sauron started from a place of wanting efficiency and ended at tyranny. But once he locks into that worldview, he cannot see anything outside it. He cannot imagine resistance that does not try to beat him at his own game. He cannot conceive of pity as force, patience as force, friendship as force. He cannot fathom the idea that Gandalf is not building a rival empire, but actively trying to make sure there will be no empire at all. Gandalf's whole plan is not replace Sauron. It is make Sauron replaceable by nothing. The wise at the Council of Elrond say it out loud. We cannot use the ruling ring. The only right ending is to unmake it. Sauron hears that intention and laughs, because the concept of somebody willingly destroying absolute leverage is nonsense to him. That laugh is his doom. He thinks only in terms of crowns and shock troops. Gandalf thinks in terms of courage, mercy, small loyalty, slow healing, and one final walk up a mountain. In the end, fear is fast, but hope is patient. Fear can conquer a city. Hope can cross an age. Sauron never understood that, and that is why his tower falls. So at the end of all his brilliance, Sauron is undone by the one thing he never accounted for: somebody choosing healing over ruling. Gandalf doesn't seize the ring. He builds a world where the ring can be destroyed. That's the difference, and that's why the Dark Lord falls screaming. If you enjoyed watching a cosmic tyrant get outplayed by hobbits, grief counseling, and a wizard who will not shut up about hope, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and tell us in the comments when you think Sauron should have started panicking. We'll see you in the next episode. Bring snacks.